So we had a great response last week from Adam Simpson and the journalist in Perth and some of the journos v coaches spats. So we're going to look at general footy spats, and none are bigger than Kevin Sheedy and Robert Walls. It went way back to when they played against each other, Richmond v Carlton, then it went to their coaching history. And here was a radio interview which started the most recent spat.
A lot of people are very righteous. I mean, there are a lot of snipers out there in the 1970s and 80s, and all of a sudden now they're trying to say, I mean, you know, let's clean the game up. And some of those blokes are now writing articles and making comments. I said, felt like saying the other, weekend, I said all snipers weren't in Vietnam in the 70s.
I reckon it might have been me.
Name names though, couldn't he?
But if it was me, he should have had the courage to say so. I'll talk to you about plumbers and teachers on Tuesday night.
Well, 65% winning ratio to compare to your middle 30s. Good luck to you. Doesn't worry me.
I tell you what, I'll talk to you about that on Tuesday night
well,
too.
Maybe you went to Brisbane and hit, pal. See you later.
Well, Tuesday night came around. It was a bit of Caro v Kennett style, but this one was on for young and old a few days later.
I think you've been a good coach, let me say that from the start. But you have no idea what it's like to take on a wooden spoon team. And for you to say that he went to Brisbane and hid, that's offensive and insulting.
Well, it can be offensive.
Let me tell you, you wouldn't know what it was like to have an owner of a club who wanted to close it down every second week. You wouldn't know what it was like to have 90% of your players who come from outside that state are homesick, don't get opportunities because no one's interested in Aussie rules up there. You wouldn't know what it was like to go to your own bank and pull money out to pay your best and fairest winner because the club couldn't afford it. You haven't got a broad experience of coaching.
It's better than going on television and calling him a sniper, isn't it?
Well, I never said that, so be very careful about that. Because, you know,
Kevin,
that's a very
everybody who heard that comment
that's a typical...
believed you. You weren't referring to Robert Walls?
No.
Don't talk in riddles. Answer the question, and the question is...
Robert, I never mentioned your name.
Was I a sniper?
All the 70s and 80s, that people out there making the comments. And if I said on the radio, if the hat fits, then we all will.
I think
and
it's
I
a bit
wrote about
sad.
myself.
It's just a bit sad that you go so far with your bluff, and when your bluff's called, you back off.
Well, in what way?
Well, you just won't name me.
Well,
and
why should
I don't mind if you name me, to tell you the truth. It doesn't worry me.
Oh, so I'm feeling nervous here talking about it. And Damo, you got
on a show.
You got yourself in the middle of one. You wrote an article with Jason Ackermanis, an exclusive, which set it off and maybe the end of him at Brisbane with Lee Matthews.
It came to an end, didn't it? The love that they had for Acker as a footy club, Brownie, and then the love that he had for the club, it just blew apart in 2006. And between he and Lee Matthews, and they basically described him as a consultant as it unfolded. Yeah, and he was sacked after the article, Lloydie, and it just played out this way.
It was from Jason Ackermanis' personal website that the now infamous email was posted, revealed later to be the work of his brother, Rory.
It read, "My coach is a and can't coach, but you wouldn't know this because you know it all," and it's left Matthews amused.
Oh, Jason's fine. But Rory will never be drafted by this club, I guarantee you.
Michael Voss said yesterday the outspoken star was dropped 90% for form reasons and 10% for discipline, but Lee Matthews disagrees.
Oh, you know, this is where it's a matter of opinion, isn't it? I'd go more 50-50.
What do you like about Lee Matthews? There must be something. He's taking you to 3 premierships.
I do have good memories.
Just remind you of some of the things you said in an Age article on the weekend. You said Ackermanis taps his foot angrily when he talks about Matthews. He uses words like dictator and bully. I want to send him a picture of me with a cup and write on it, "Wish you were here, not."
Well, 2 months ago, that's exactly what I thought. I've made nothing against other clubs. I want to be at the Bulldogs. So I'm going to say that categorically, and don't bother asking because I'm going to be. That's where I want to go. So let's do the deal. Let's get it done.
When a player says, I don't want to be here, his teammates weren't too happy with that. If you keep playing Russian roulette, you'll eventually shoot yourself.
Can I tell you in one sentence, Acker's a pain in the arse around the footy club, and once he wasn't going to help you enough on the field, you get him out of the joint.
They tolerated him, though, until they stopped winning premierships. Yeah. I will say that in his defence, and I know you think I'm a bit too close with Acker in the retelling of that story, Brownie, but he was good for them for a long time.
Another internal spat came in the early 2000s where Port Adelaide were a really good team in the home and away, but they kept choking and failing in finals in 01, 02, 03, and after a prelim final in 03, Alan Scott, who was the major sponsor of the club, the actual facility is named the Alan Scott Power Headquarters, said, whilst Mark Williams is coach of Port Adelaide, they will not win a premiership. Of course, he was wrong, and Mark Williams reminded about it.
If I had my way, I'd pass the vote of no confidence in the whole board. Alan Scott is Port's biggest financial backer, kicking in $6 million so far. And he's putting his mouth where his money is, after writing an angry letter to the club's administrators demanding sackings at the top.
I made it quite clear to the President and to the board that we could never win a premiership with Mark Williams.
So convinced is Scott that Williams and the board can't deliver that he's admitted having a $5,000 bet against Port with a fellow member before this year's finals.
I was prepared to put up some money against it, which turned out pretty good from my point of view, but I would rather them won.
There is a couple of mentions I'd like to make. Certainly our major sponsor in Vodafone, and Alan Scott, you were wrong.
Oh, what a legend.
What happened after that came? Was Scott gone? Or?
Nah, I think they smoothed things over as best that they possibly could, and the club probably went into damage control. But everyone was pretty happy with the premiership, and yeah, Alan Scott passed away some years ago, which was sad at the time. But I think they did think they shook hands and made amends.
Well, early thousands seems to be a theme here, and people were disgruntled at that time, but Butters and Thomas at St Kilda decided to bring in Mountain Blight, and it didn't end that well. But this is one of my favourite all-time quotes, Lloydie, out of footy.
I couldn't give a rat's toss bag whether he thought I could coach or anyone thinks I can coach or could play. I don't care. Have an opinion, we all have an opinion. But when he talked about commitment to St Kilda, for the time I was there, it's absolute garbage, made by a very naive person. All I did was handle some egos, tried to handle some egos with a very bad football club that had won 2 games the year before. Commitment, no. Mightn't have liked the way I did it, stiff. Commitment, never not.
Could you have changed things a little bit?
No. Happy with what I did.
It said that you weren't good with kids, you were better with a mature list.
Oh, yeah. So in Adelaide or Geelong, 2 very young teams came from nowhere to play in grand finals with young teams. Come on, that's a wank. 5 grand finals in 8 years. In the previous stints would probably, I just reckon I do know something about it. And I reckon after nearly 40 years in it, you do know a bit.
He's brilliant, Blighty,
He's so good. Was he questioned for playing a bit too much golf at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was the perception. The club itself was very happy to have out there. And Grant Thomas, I mean, I'm with Blighty on that. Grant Thomas was angling for the job before and after, so he eventually got it.
So Jason Dunstall and Stephen Quartermain in the coach's box when Jason was part of the hierarchy at Hawthorn, and here's how it played out.
If you'd done your research like a good journo, you would know that he hasn't had any setbacks along the way whatsoever. He is back running, and it is going well.
I asked you the question. His future is becoming more and more clouded.
It's not.
And I asked you, will he play this
more
year?
Cloudy
Or less
yes
or no?
That's not his future. His future's
Well,
not
what
one
is his
bloody
future
year.
then?
It is not one bloody year. This is exactly what Channel 10 do. This is sensationalism,
you
Hugh. You're talking shit is what you're doing right
Don't
now.
swear on air.
I'm
You're better
telling
than
you,
that.
you're talking shit.
Don't swear on
and
air.
You are
You're better than that.
No, you shut up and listen instead
Don't
of
speak-
talking
don't speak
shit.
to me like that.
Well, then I won't talk to you.
Get out of the box.
Will do.
I will not work with
Will
someone
do.
like that. Get out of the box
Will
right
do.
now. Go on, nick
Will
off. Just throwing a whole tray of food on me.
A whole tray.
Nick
There's a
off.
couple
I'm
of
not working
crumbs.
with those.
Shut up.
Get out. Get out. That is unacceptable behaviour.
Shut up.
Get out, Jason.
It's as funny as he gets a few crumbs in his hand. And the apology that Chief had to give was as disingenuous I've ever heard an apology.
The apology's funnier than that.
The apology is funnier.
How long did they not speak for after that?
Oh, look, they're both great Hawthorn people. They're great people, full stop. They've patched it up, haven't they, Brownie?
Yeah, it took him a decade, though.
A decade, was it?
It was a nice photo of quarters, too, that we did see, wasn't it? OK, well done, Llordo. A great version of the deep dive.